Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. There are no polling questions or attendance checks. Instead, you will demonstrate your knowledge by taking a brief multiple-choice quiz using the Earmark app. Visit earmark.app in your web browser. You can also download the mobile app by scanning the QR code on the screen. Log in, or if you're new, create your free account. Be sure to use a valid email address because that's where we'll send your course completion certificates. From the home screen, scroll down to find the course. You can also tap the magnifying glass icon to search for the course. Tap on the course artwork, then the Enroll button. On the Course tab, you'll find the recording and quiz questions. Complete the quiz to earn your CPE certificate. It takes us a few days to create the course on the app, so if you are attending this session live, please wait a few days. We'll email you a link to the course when it is ready. If you have questions or need help, email us at support@earmarkcpe.com. And now, on to the event.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Workshop Wednesday, where it's all about casual conversations for serious workflows, which is brought to you by schoolofbookkeeping.com, where you can learn QuickBooks your way, however you want. Right? And as you can see, we have an extra guest today. So we have Michael O'Rourke from Settle, which is where the title of the workshop came from, where we're going to settle the score. But hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
And you are wearing your settle
Always,
gear there,
always,
right?
always got to represent.
Got it. Okay. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. So we have a blog on School of Bookkeeping where it's all about trying to evaluate in the QuickBooks Online space online bill pay options, because there are Michael and I were talking a while ago about that there's so many. I mean, tell us about your experience when you were going around the one of the conferences.
Oh yeah, so last year when I was at Scaling New Heights, I was probably 2 or 3 months into being at Settle, and we were walking around, and I was just like, bill pay, bill pay, bill pay, bill pay. It seemed like there was like 20 different booths that were so focused on bill pay. So that was kind of a tough realization at the time, because we're like, man, there's just a lot of people in this space. But then over the next couple months, Settle found a way to really differentiate themselves from our competitors. So happy to get into that.
Yeah, and that I first heard of Settle at Intuit Connect. I participated in a breakout session that was run by Settle and Deb and I think Stephen Brown from Ledger Gurus. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, what is this all about?
And I know that Ledger Gurus actually is they're big fans of Settle, and they've promoted it before too. So because I found out about it from Brittany Brown.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about what kind of distinctions Settle has, because I really like and can appreciate when you're looking for a bill pay solution, right? Because if you go to the blog, you can see that there are at least 6 or so that we've kind of put side by side, kind of against each other, going from, inside of QuickBooks Online, being able to pay bills, directly within QuickBooks Online with Melio, which was the embedded, bill pay solution inside of QuickBooks Online, and then Ramp and, Corpay and Makers Hub. I mean, they all have some specifics, distinctions. What were you going to say, Rachel?
I was just gonna say before Michael describes it, because when I first started using QuickBooks Online, I went through a lot of confusion because there's so many apps, and I didn't realize that I could do these things in QuickBooks Online. Oftentimes, there's a better solution, and so out there that you can bypass what is happening in QuickBooks Online, and you can add in your own thing. So before he talks about that, Dan, can you just maybe describe why would somebody use something that, if there's a function for it in QuickBooks Online, why would you use something extra?
Right. Why would you? Right.
Yeah.
Why would you even consider looking outside?
Yeah, because that's something that I really wished that people would have explained before, and I think it's very helpful.
All right. Well, put on your history hat. So when QuickBooks Online first came out, it was more on the receiving end of reality, right? So I would always tell people when they would call in, like, hey, you want your QuickBooks reality to match your real reality, what actually really happened in reality. And with the exception of QuickBooks payments, accepting money from your customers, QuickBooks really didn't have a way to dictate reality, right? Like to initiate something that's going to actually happen in reality. So sending money out and initiating that from within QuickBooks was not a function inside of QuickBooks Online. So, obviously that's, there's money in and then there's money out.
Yep.
Right. So, QuickBooks and Intuit, started on this journey of, well, how do we initiate or trigger, real money movement out of QuickBooks? And that's not the easiest thing to initiate, because now you have, all sorts of considerations as far as, money laundering, those types of things, and
permissions.
Permissions. And so they their first partnership with a bill pay solution, a bill pay option, was with Bill, Bill.com. Sorry, Michael, I have to use a better thing. But they, at the time, they were not the 20 others that Michael was talking about going around. They were it, right? Like they were the gold standard, I guess, of accounts payable solution. So they started a partnership with them, and then I don't know what's the polite way to say it. It wasn't
kick them to the curb.
well, no, it wasn't the greatest experience because there was a charge for the service. Accountants and bookkeepers. There was a this was back in the time where apps and accountants really didn't mix very well. So basically, the business owner had to do all of the accounts payable functions, which in reality wasn't really the case. So then they kicked Bill to the curb with Melio as the embedded bill pay service solution, right? And in all things that QuickBooks tends to incorporate as a new feature or function inside of QuickBooks, I kind of liken it or compare it to the shallow end of the pool, right? It will send money, it will send a bill, a bill payment to your customer or your vendor, supplier, or whatever that might be. But the functionalities that are inside of QuickBooks are very limited. best way to describe that. So what people tend to find is that that's great, but there's usually a yeah, but.
Yeah, and that's me. I'm a big app person, and well, I know you are too, but I mean, it's kind of got to the point where I want faster, better, more efficient, more things, more this, and so yeah. So now we're technology has improved.
Yeah. So now QuickBooks doesn't even work with Melio. Well, I mean, it works with Melio, but it doesn't. It's not in the embedded.
It's not powered by Melio.
Yeah. Right. They have their own solution, and it has some cool functions in and of itself. But again, it has some limitations. And a lot of times, like if you want to do things like multi-approvers and, splitting out the line items of the bills and those types of things, you end up having to go with QuickBooks Online Advanced in order to have those functionalities, and if that's the only reason that you're considering QuickBooks Online Advanced from Plus, that's $136 a month difference, right?
Yeah.
So,
and since we're all advisors, we can do a little bit of number crunching and homework, and we can figure out that there might be a better way for our client, maybe to use something more efficient rather than to bump them up to advanced.
Right.
So anyway, thank you so much for doing that. We can jump into Settle now, but because I'm so excited to hear. But
I got one thing to add to that too. One thing. So I've been in the bill pay world for about like almost 5 years now, and one reason why people don't necessarily like a QuickBooks like bill pay is because they don't want the whole team to have access to the QuickBooks file. Like it's nice to kind of separate that from that piece of the business, use that as a source of truth so that the whole team has visibility into it without actually being able to mess around with the financials.
Yeah.
Right. And even if you are using QuickBooks Bill Pay in Plus, right, you can set up, user and roles and permissions. But if somebody is just a bill pay clerk inside of QuickBooks, you've taken up one of the 5 users.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. And so sometimes you don't want to do that.
Yeah. And my big concern with having all of your QuickBooks eggs in one basket, so to speak, is, what if one thing goes wrong with bill pay, right? And now that's kind of soiled the thought about all of the things that deal with money movement, So with regards to like payroll and QuickBooks payments and now bill pay being in one place, if payroll goes wrong, now you've got something soiling the thought of QuickBooks.
Yeah, it's like muddying the waters of all of QuickBooks, and it's like we've seen into it. They've developed QuickBooks to try and be all things to all people. We sort of see that year after year, and I feel like those of us that are a little more tech savvy, it's like we're really using QuickBooks as a ledger and gathering all the information. Like we talk about all the time here, we're just doing the things outside of QuickBooks, sending all the info to QuickBooks, especially with some of the more advanced things that I know Settle can do, like inventory and more complex purchasing.
Right, and especially if paying bills has a lot of scope creep to it, right? So, right, I mean, it's just as simple as I've received a bill and I need to make that payment. Yeah, QuickBooks Bill Pay, may not be a bad idea, right? But if there's inventory involved or sales and those types of things, so that ends up causing a lot of challenges when you are looking for a solution for one thing, and there's more workflows that are necessary to feed into that one thing, right?
Yeah, there's more nuance, and you might need something that can handle like all the changing of maybe supply chain, like what's going on right now with tariffs.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So Michael, tell us a little bit about Settle, and kind of what distinguishes Settle from some of the other bill pay solutions
yeah.
that are
Yeah,
out there.
for sure. So it's funny because whenever I meet with a firm or one of their clients, and really the objective is to talk AP and bill pay, like I always tell them, like it's important to ask, like, what else does your payment platform do? And that's usually really dependent on the type of client or the type of clients that that firm will work with. And what makes Settle like super unique is that we don't just do bill pay. We have an inventory management piece to our business. We have a procurement side to the platform as well, so you can order all and pay all of your inventory through our platform, and also calculate your landed cost and cost of goods sold inside the platform. And then when you go to pay these invoices, you can actually say, hey, I want Settle to pay this particular invoice, or I want to use my bank account. So we have a working capital piece as well to help a lot of these brands, maybe with some cash flow issues or some seasonality in their business, really kind of get them to that next step that they can ultimately scale and grow. So it's
I've
really
actually
great.
never seen anything as awesome as this. It's so
Thank you. That's
cool.
awesome.
It's a
Yeah, but it's
$5
really,
plug there for.
Yeah,
yeah,
well, like what you just said, I mean, the thing that really got me is and I'm so excited to like start to be able to use this, is that you're purchasing your inventory, and actually your inventory can live right there and Settle, and you don't
exactly.
need to even add your inventory items into QuickBooks Online. It's just there.
Nope.
You buy 10 widgets, you sell one, you've got 9, and how much you have on hand, and the dollar value just goes over to QuickBooks Online, so you have that on your balance sheet. But you can just manage it right there and Settle, and you can see your true cost, your landed cost. I mean, it's a very clear, simplified way of managing inventory,
Yeah.
and
Well said.
especially for if you're buying and reselling goods. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So we do support, like we have businesses from all industries that use us just for bill pay. And that's totally fine. It's kind of like that next level when there is inventory related that we can help these brands in so many different ways. And I think giving them access to a lot of data points that they might not be getting when just using a spreadsheet. And bill pay is a nice entry point into Settle. You get all of your SKUs into our system, raw materials, components, finished items. Then you start using our purchase orders to order that inventory. And on the PO, you can put in all the expenses that go into ordering that inventory. We automatically calculate the landed cost for you. And we've now created a product cost catalog for all of your SKUs, which is super helpful. And when we work with so many firms, the amount of times that I've heard that a particular business or brand didn't realize that they weren't profitable until the end of the year was shocking.
Yeah.
So we want to help these brands kind of get going, get a full understanding of the operations and the finance, and combine it into one under one platform.
Yeah, especially in like times like these, we need real time,
Yeah.
insight to what's going on with profitability, not looking backward.
Yeah, I mean, I just heard, some economist was talking about, some of the news that's coming out
Mm-hmm.
today, which was based off of the first quarter of this year, right? And that doesn't include anything that occurred in April,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and we're not going to know that until basically 3 months from now, right? So, like, to see what the outlook, is. I mean, you can look at the volatility of today and see, well, okay, this is probably not going to be the greatest thing, but knowing real time is these days is really
Yeah,
paramount. I think
it's really
for
important.
you cannot wait 3 months or the end of the year to see, oh yeah, I should have charged more, or
Yep.
or should have pivoted. And that's one of the reasons I think that a lot of people do add additional apps, to kind of, go off of that analogy, right? Is if something goes wrong with like the settles of the world, well, you have another option, right? And or if your QuickBooks is down or something like that, you can go into that, and you're not pigeonholed or stuck in trying to function in where all of your workflow eggs are in one basket, so to speak. So I really appreciate, Michael, the fact that it does touch a lot of other those work of the, oh my God, I can't say it. It does touch those other workflows that are specific to procurement and paying of a bill. But I have a question about, because we're dealing with like, potentially dealing with inventory and multiple SKUs and landed costs and those types of things. What is one of the biggest issues that I see with a lot of these other platforms is when you have a scanned document or forward, because they all kind of do the same thing of, you forward the document, it scrapes it out. What is like the OCR piece where it can actually recognize that document? Does it actually split out the different line item details and those types of things?
Great question. So a lot of payment platforms, when you upload an invoice, they're going to have the OCR that's going to pull all the information off, populate all your fields. But I think a big differentiator for us is what we'll actually do is we can actually break it out on a line by line basis and allow you to categorize each individual line item compared to some of the other platforms where you basically have to categorize or classify a whole invoice basically to one account. So we can get really granular with that level. And also too, it kind of helps. We always try to push consistency now. It kind of helps with overall process because we want item names and SKU numbers to be the same on your invoice that it is on the purchase order, that it would be on the packing slip. And sometimes like that's not the case. So we help these brands and businesses kind of formalize a lot of their processes that way, just from, the overall functionality, in our platform.
I have to also tell you, I'm working with another solution right now. I'm not going to say what it is, but in terms of grabbing the total, it forces you to go to one account instead of splitting it out.
Yeah.
And their solution for that is, well, then it will reverse, and then you can categorize it where you want to go. And I'm like, okay, so it's a whole extra step. So the fact that it can just do it the way you want really means that the technology is really advanced, by the way.
Yeah, it's great. And we get a lot of positive feedback in that regard because you get to do it you can categorize by class, project, and customer.
Yeah, well, and then also what is another really important thing is, let's say you've made some purchases and you have some elements that should go to cost of goods sold, and you have other elements that do belong in landed costs on the balance sheet. Those are two different financial statements, and sometimes technology, they can't do that, and this one that I'm referring to specifically can't do that. And so to be able to grab really any GL you want and split that is a really big deal.
Yeah, we have a couple other really cool features like on the bill pay portion as well. One, you can link documents together in our platform. So if you have a purchase order associated with that invoice, we want to link that. If you have the packing slip as well, we want to link all those documents together so you have the whole operation tied. And what you can also do is we have what we call our three-way auto match. You can even do it with two documents if you want, but we'll take those three documents, do a line item scan, pick up any discrepancies between those, because a lot of times like what you ordered is not what you received and what you're being billed for. So we're going to try to help put some money back in your pocket, whether it's vendor credits or refunds, but essentially it's a very manual process and a lot of people are not doing it. So it's definitely something
and it's required. It's really required. Like if it were my warehouse, it would be required.
Is there now we always want to be kind of transparent with folks that are watching or listening or seeing this later or trying to take their CPE credit. Is there something that would say, okay, you're not the best fit for Settle, because I know with marketing they want everyone to everybody will work. It'll work for everybody.
I've learned that the hard way. Just in this industry in general, it's like if it's not the best fit, it's not the best fit. And I working with firms, I always want to respect their professional relationship with their clients. So that's always super important. But in terms of who wouldn't be, is essentially the question, who wouldn't be a good fit for someone using Settle?
Yeah.
I would say the people that we find that don't use Settle are those that are using credit cards very heavily to pay their invoices. Today, we don't support credit card transactions as a payment method. I think because it kind of conflicts with our working capital offering a little bit. Usually there's a 2.9% fee to pay with a credit card, where our interest rate per 30-day period is usually between 1 to 2%. So you can almost save a little money in that regard, but you do have to qualify for the working capital. I think eventually, if I had to guess, we'd probably start bringing on some a credit card option, because we're working with a lot of brands that are in like the pre-revenue stage right now, and they don't have like a bill pay process. And they're just like, I just use my credit card. I don't really even understand the benefit of a payment platform. So, we want to capture those. So I think ultimately at some point we'll bring on credit cards as a payment method.
So that brings up a good point. So if you have corporate credit cards or spending cards, is that something that you can manage inside of Settle, or is that not really?
That's outside of Settle. That's done outside of Settle. Yep.
So that's one thing to look at when you're comparing these platforms. So so expense reports and those types of things are not functions of the Settle platform, right?
Yeah. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. It's like, what else does your payment platform do? It's like, yeah, I want to pay bills, but like I'm going to need it for something else too. And usually, there's other options out there that do different things. So that's just always a really important question to ask when, evaluating like what's a good fit.
Awesome. Yeah, like where I see Settle is, just because I'm so heavily involved in the world of goods, not so much services, that I can't tell you like the cost of goods sold that I see. And a lot of times it's people will manually add them into their e-commerce platform or what have you. And they're not using any kind of IMS, inventory management system. Really, they're sort of in between. They're not quite there yet. They don't really know what the best processes are. They're not using any kind of full-blown IMS. And so for me, this is like a great place for people to start, because the last time that they have uploaded their cost into whatever platform they're using is, I don't know, 3 years ago or something like that. Chances are their costs have wildly changed, but they have not updated their cost per item in whatever place, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Shopify. And so what they're doing is they're using some connector like A2X or something, and they're just posting their COGS based on however it was set up a really long time ago. And a lot of times there's no cost in there. So it's wildly inaccurate. So for me, what really sets Settle apart is this ability to have a place where your cost of goods sold lives, and it's flowing through and it's sending the bill to QuickBooks Online with an accurate COGS value. So sorry. So that's what I really like about it is, you have things that are up to date. And so for me, that to me is a no-brainer because, of what I see frequently. But I was going to ask, what about your connectivity, your integration ability with maybe some other connector apps, other automation tools?
Yeah, great question. So kind of just about, piggybacking off A2X. So we have an A2X integration. So what we're able to do is pass those landed costs and cost of goods sold into A2X on a daily basis, which then updates in QBO.
Yes.
And we can also pass your SKU level profitability into a Shopify.
Oh my gosh. See, that's a really, really big deal, because for a lot of folks like me, we're sort of piecing things together in order to get the whole thing. And to be able to have your purchasing streamlined and Settle, and then when the sale comes through A2X, it's grabbing that up to the minute cost, which is calculated on a weighted average or
weighted average. Weighted average. Yep.
So you're getting an accurate, up to date weighted average costing. I mean, that is top notch. I mean, that is a level of professionalism that a lot of these smaller businesses probably have never seen, and now it's accessible to them.
Yeah, and we actually have our launch plan, which is our $0 inventory procurement bill pay plan. Is you can connect your Shopify account, connect to A2X, and like I said, pass those landed costs into the A2X integration and into QuickBooks on a daily basis. So you can do
Wow.
all that at Settle for $0 today,
Oh,
which
that's
is
incredible. Oh,
and
wow.
we want to work with these brands that it's funny. Sometimes, it's like a Shopify seller that just decided to do this one day, and next thing you know, it's like 2 years later, and they're like crushing it, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I've been neglecting this entire side of my business because I had no idea what I needed to do."
Yeah.
So like we want to take them into the Settle ecosystem, and really kind of help them scale and grow. So we do a lot of things in terms of integrations. We want you to connect your warehouse management system. We have over 60 integrations today and growing. So we want to pull in that real-time inventory data for you. We want you to connect your sales channels, so Shopify, TikTok, Amazon, Walmart, so that we're able to reflect sales that come in, and so inventory levels will increase and decrease for
That's
you.
incredible.
And then we connect with QBO, NetSuite, and Final Loop on the accounting software side.
So the devil's always in the details. So one of the things that I think when you're adding an app or an application to integrate into the QuickBooks ecosystem, one of the challenges I think is that there's maybe a workflow that you're doing end to end inside of QuickBooks, but then when you add an application, there are things that are I don't want to say severed, but I mean there are things that won't occur because of the way that things are integrating, and because you mentioned A2X, and from my understanding of A2X is very similar to Bookkeep in that it will send over transactions or details as journal entries into QuickBooks, which if you are doing something that needs that actual transaction created, then causes I can't do this because it's not the transaction type that I needed inside of QuickBooks.
Yeah. You can't
Is
run
that
certain reports because of that.
like sales tax and those types of things, because you're only affecting the general ledger because of the journal entry.
Yeah.
Is that the level of integration inside of QuickBooks Online through A2X, or is there a specific way that QuickBooks or Settle communicates with QuickBooks, or is it all through some other connector?
So from my understanding, we're going to pass landed costs and COGS info into A2X. A2X then does its thing and will pass that into QBO.
I still think it's going to be a sales journal entry and a COGS
I think so too.
inventory journal entry. That's how A2X
that's what I was going to get to. Yeah, because you will have the bill, like the invoices, that also will sync over from Settle as well inside of QBO.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Like, the bills will show up.
That will come over as a bill. Yeah,
that will come over. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just more on the sales side of things of how they're going to show. Okay, perfect. All right. Anything else? We wanted to talk about the genesis of Settle. What and that's one of the things I really appreciate about a lot of these app companies. Is they decide to make a solution for themselves for their own problems, and then oh wow, this is actually something that other people would use too, right?
Yeah, this is funny. That's kind of what happened here. It's our CEO Alec was using an AP software, and I'm pretty sure his words were it sucked or he hated it. I forget which one. Then he's like, you know what? Like I think we can make something better. And then he also has the background in lending, so he's like, you know what? Like, what if we're able to combine the AP side with working capital? So he went and kind of shopped this idea around with some founders, and they loved it. And it was something that they were able to roll out. And this happened back in 2019. I think COVID slowed things down a bit, but then kind of got up and running once things picked back up. But we really gravitated towards like the CPG, e-commerce, D2C world, because those are the ones that we could really help, that Settle could come in, give them the capital that they need purchase that inventory to ultimately grow the revenue. And that's what I see a lot in my day to day. Like so many of these brands are like at that inflection point where they're like, we have the orders, but we don't have the money to fund it. Like, how can we? Can you please help us? And it's awesome when we are able to help.
Because the accounting side of a sale, when you're recognizing the cost of goods sold, you don't get to pay for your inventory in that manner, right? You can't say, well, when I sell one, I'll pay you for it. No, they kind of want their money up front, right?
They do.
those suppliers. So having access to working capital can really impact a business's cash flow situation. Because if you don't have inventory, you can't sell anything. If you're in the hard goods space, but you kind of need some money to buy those hard goods so that you can it's a catch-22 almost.
A little bit, and you kind of brought it up there. It's like, they want their money now. So like when you're sending, creating these purchase orders, a lot of times you have to put a deposit down on those POs. And this actually was the brainchild of Brittany Brown from over at Ledger Gurus. We had dinner with her one night, and she's like, if you guys can just figure out how to solve this problem by being able to make a deposit directly on a purchase order and also have the appropriate journal entries created on the accounting software side, you guys have a hit. So we went back to our product team. Like, I've been in the software space for like 5 or 6 years now. This is hands down the best product team I've ever worked with. We went to them and said, we need you to build this, and they did. So now on the PO level, you can send the PO, and because we do the POs and the payment side of it, you can go in, make the deposit directly on the PO. So that transaction is now assigned to the PO. You don't have a team trying to figure out 2 months later what that $10,000 transaction was associated with.
Yeah,
it's
that's
now
a
on our
really
system.
big deal.
It's great. It really is. And sometimes I'll like explain this to like the brands and the businesses, and they're kind of like, yeah, okay. But then when I tell like accountants about it, they're like,
yeah, no,
oh my gosh.
It's a really big deal because it's a really big problem, because most of the I have actually several customers that buy from China, and you always have to put 50% down, and a lot of times you have to create 2 POs because you can't receive you're not receiving any product, you're just paying, you're prepaying, right, without receiving the product, and you don't want to close out that PO, and sometimes you have to work around it and create 2 separate POs, and it's really big pain. So to be able to do it this way is really great.
That's awesome. And then you had mentioned Shopify earlier, and when we were talking yesterday or the day before, I'm not sure when we were chatting. You had mentioned Shopify is investing in Settled. Tell us a little bit.
So we're doing our Series C. Should be, I think, completed very soon. And Shopify is one of our investors. So we got
awesome,
great backing. It's just a great kind of nod of approval from a huge brand like that. And we're in their app store also, so you can find us there as well. But yeah, very, very excited about that. So it's a really cool development over the last couple months.
So if you are selling on Shopify, it kind of makes it kind of
does
leads into really nicely. Like, okay, you're using an inventory management component that Shopify is actually pouring some money into.
Exactly.
Yeah. And how about syncing the items from Settle to Shopify too? Oh my goodness gracious.
Yep, we do that. So we have an onboarding team. So what's really unique about Settle too is we have an onboarding team at no cost. So a lot of these other IMSs you got to pay. Sometimes I've heard like 10 grand for onboarding. So we do that at no cost. We can basically upload all of the SKUs for the business. We can pull them in from Shopify, clean it up if necessary. Sometimes we'll merge them from 2 different sources so that everything talks to each other appropriately. But essentially, we onboard you, we train you, and give you the keys to start using Settle. And then you also have a customer success manager associated to the business. So essentially like a Settle team member. So if you need help with anything, you always have someone to work with over here, which is really cool and very helpful.
Now, another thing that just popped up in my mind about these paying for merchandise overseas. What about like currency exchange and
Oh
so
yeah.
a lot of payment providers or bill pay solutions U.S. only, or something like that. So how does that work with?
Oh, we definitely you can send money in multi-currencies. I haven't come across one that we weren't able to find on the list. I think there's some countries like in Africa that you're not allowed to send money to, and there's a couple that get added to the list here and there.
Those
But
Nigerian
aside from
princes.
that, it's funny though. We did find over the last month transaction volume is down to China, but up to India.
Okay.
So yeah,
Well,
so
I'm sure that's true, but they'll still take American money in China.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But it's funny where people might be ordering from now. Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely changed up some behaviors. I was actually on a call with someone yesterday, and they're like, "Yeah, I have a manufacturer in Charlotte, but I was thinking about doing something overseas. But now with the tariffs, I think we might just stay in Charlotte." And I was like, I think that was like the point of the
Yeah.
tariffs at the end
Yeah.
of the day. So it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting, like what's going on and the decisions that people are having to make these days.
Is with the foreign currency, is there like a flat fee for that, or is it
Great
just based
question.
off
Yeah. So
currency?
we have, obviously there's the exchange rate, but I have not come across another payment platform that has a lower transaction fee than Settle. With banks, it's usually like 40 to 50 bucks per transaction. Some other platforms are like 20 to 25. We're only $12 to send international payments. So we have a lot of people that actually will just use us for the international payments, just for those fees. So that's definitely a big selling point for us, especially when it's inventory related. You're probably ordering from outside the United States, so that's really important. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, the one of my educational client, Rachel, he's actually negotiated with his with some of his international vendors that they absorb the fee because it's so outlandish with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
with the bank.
know. I know. It's all these like interesting ways that they're kind of doing business, and I don't know that it like that the people we talked to yesterday, it seems that they have their freight absorbed into
Yeah.
their costs. So I'm seeing all
Oh,
kinds of weird
yeah.
things lately. Sorry, that's my dog. My other dog is outside, so my little dog is like losing his mind right now.
Gotcha. All right. Well, on that note, we probably should let your dogs talk to each other, or at least communicate. Michael, appreciate you appreciate you joining us today on the workshop. We have a QR code here, and we put in a link in the comments if you want to take a look at Settle and talk to Michael a little bit more about what it is that your needs are. And again, we appreciate. We should probably have you come back on to compare inventory solutions because you do both.
I'd be down. I'm very down for that. So you just let me know. I'll be here.
All right. Well, you all have a great day, and we'll see you next time on the Workshop Wednesday.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.